NFL draft. I am coming out with my final mock draft. Now, not so much of the editing and stuff I've done in years past, but I will be going over each and every pick in this mock draft here, all 32 teams. So if you want to know what your team, who they take, and a little bit of a reason why, go ahead and stay tuned or skip forward, whatever you want to do, however that works. But every team's pick will be addressed in this mock draft. So let's go ahead and get started with the Cleveland Browns. I have them taking Sam Darnold. Now, there's a lot of Sam Darnold, or will they take Josh Allen? Maybe a little more upside, but a little bit more risk. A lot of people agree that it's going to be one of those two guys. I just think the Browns could really use the safer bet in Darnold, but there also is some comparisons that maybe they see some of Carson Wentz and Josh Allen, and they don't want to pass on that again. So I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think the Browns do kind of set the draft because if Darnold falls, I think more teams are going to be interested in him than perhaps Allen. So really changes things up. But with Darnold going number one, I have the Giants taking Bradley Chubb. I don't know with the second overall pick if you can, in a good running back class, if you can go running back, at least with the defensive end here, they can make the argument that they're getting an elite pass rusher, get back to some of that defense that got them to the playoffs. But really, I think the Giants should be looking to take a quarterback here or should be looking to trade down because I think you just got to get more out of the second overall pick. It doesn't come that often. Third overall, I have the New York Jets taking Josh Allen. I think him or Rosen are the reason why they traded up, assuming that the Browns take Darnold number one and the Giants don't. I think the Jets believe they could get either Josh Allen or Josh Rosen. They get Allen in this scenario. Then I have my first trade in the draft. The Broncos trading up from 5 to 4 to get their guy, Josh Rosen. I think Elway would see a lot in him. Maybe Mayfield could be their guy too, but I don't think Bronco fans would be too upset with Josh Rosen in this scenario. And again, maybe say give up a fourth round pick and it keeps anybody else from trading with the Browns. This allows the Browns to get an extra pick, still move down to 5, and still get Saquon Barkley. So you leave with your quarterback of the future behind Tyrod Taylor, your running back of the future. I think a lot of people would be happy with that. The Colts, I think, would get a lot of calls at this point for Baker Mayfield. Teams looking to do a trade, but I think they pass on that because I think they have to take Quinn Nelson. You've already traded down and got extra picks. The guard that could really improve your running game, could really give Andrew Luck protection, is sitting right there for you. I don't think you can pass on that. So I think they go Quinn Nelson. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go cornerback Denzel Ward. Yes, they invested in Vernon Hargreaves not long ago, but I do think their secondary could use some help. Him or Minkah Fitzpatrick, assuming Bradley Chubb is not here at this point, would make the most sense, I think, for the Buccaneers. Then at number 8, I have another trade. And the Bears decide to trade down to let one of these quarterback-needy teams go up and get the final quarterback on the board. But it's not the Dolphins, it's not the Bills, it's not the Cardinals even. It is the LA Chargers. And this is something that nobody's talking about, but I think really could happen. Here they trade up to 8 for Baker Mayfield. And 1, the Chargers need a quarterback behind Phillip Rivers. And 2, they need a reason to sell some seats, because they struggled this past year to sell tickets in a soccer stadium with 30,000 seats as it is. They're moving to a bigger, badder stadium in LA. They need a little bit of buzz, and I think Baker sitting a year or two behind Phillip Rivers as that quarterback of the future, build a little buzz, might get a few more seats in the stadium, might get a few more people paying attention to the Chargers in LA. Sometimes you got to make some of these ratings picks. Teams won't admit it, but it does play a little bit of a factor. I have the 49ers taking Roquan Smith. I think he's the best player available at this point. The 49ers have done a good job the last couple of years of taking those guys. And with Reuben Foster's health and off-the-field concerns, you could still use a little more help at linebacker. So I think Roquan Smith, they bring him in, he's a little bit more of a sure thing, and then they hope that Foster can figure some stuff out. Derwin James to the Raiders, I think they could use some secondary help, and I think he would be great. Could play strong safety or free safety for them, either one. Number 11, the Miami Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick. Now, I think he falls a little more than people would think, but I have heard some people that I really trust when they talk about the draft process saying that Minkah is more of an 8 to 14 range guy than a top 5 or top 7 range guy. And so here he falls to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins probably, if they just did at 11, will probably get somebody decent to follow them. If it's not Minkah, it'd be Derwin James or Roquan or Tremaine, maybe even Baker. So I think the Dolphins are in a pretty good spot. Minkah Fitzpatrick comes in day one, plays free safety for them. In my opinion, that would be their biggest need over cornerback for him. Helps their defense out. Bills, they don't get a deal to trade up in this scenario. So at number 12, they take Tremaine Edmunds. I think help that defense out. They could use a little bit more help in the front seven. 13, the Redskins get Calvin Ridley, top wide receiver at the board. You have Alex Smith, who's good, but we've seen what Alex Smith is, and he needs a good team around him for sure. So they get some more help for him. 14, the Green Bay Packers get Darius Geis. I think he's a really good running back. I don't know if he's that far off of Barkley, to be quite honest with you, a little bit, but I think the Packers still get their running back of the future, and finally the answer to that position with this pick. At number 15, the Cardinals, having all 4 quarterbacks gone, trade out of the pick, because if they're not going to get a quarterback, what they need are some extra picks, get this old team a little younger, and it's the Cowboys trading up from 19 to 15 to ensure they get Mike McGlinchey. The Cowboys, when they had that awesome 13-3 season, it was because of the offensive line, helping out Zeke, helping out Dak, allowing those guys to do what they do. So they need a little bit more depth. A couple of guys have been taken in recent years from the Cowboys, so I have them getting McGlinchey in this scenario. 16, the Ravens get Marcus Davenport, defensive end, UTSA. A big thing about the draft is a lot of times people will talk about needs, but teams that have had the same ownership, the same coach, the same management for a while tend to do the same things in the draft, and this seems like an absolute Ravens pick. I'm sure they would address running back and wide receiver and offensive line later. This seems like absolutely somebody the Ravens would take. No doubt about it. 17, the Bears, who have traded down, take Harold Landry. So if you're the Bears, you trade down, you probably get a pretty good haul, maybe even a future first from the Chargers at this point, if not several mid-round picks, and you still get a decent pass rusher in Harold Landry. Not too bad. They gave up some picks for Mitch Trubisky, so they kind of get that back here, going with quantity over quality in this scenario. 18, the Bills trade up one spot ahead of the Cardinals. So now the Cardinals are at 19. The Bills trade up and get Lamar Jackson. So they don't get a deal done in the top 10, but they do use some of that draft asset to at least get a quarterback. Some may say, why would they draft Lamar Jackson when they got rid of Tyrod Taylor, kind of a similar player? You can make the argument maybe Lamar Jackson a little more athletic, a little better in that case. And I think the Bills, I don't know if you would feel comfortable if you're the Bills heading into the season with just A.J. McCarron as your quarterback. So I think they feel the need to get somebody on that roster. And the Bills leaving with Tremaine Edmunds and Lamar Jackson, not the worst haul in the world either. At 19, then the Cardinals, with no quarterback whatsoever to take Christian Kirk. So they get a little younger at the wide receiver position. 20, the Lions take Vita Vea. They get some help along that defensive line at the defensive tackle position. 21, the Seahawks, who trade down, get Rashaan Evans. So maybe pick up an extra mid-round pick and still get a solid linebacker to build that new defense, having seen Michael Bennett departure, Richard Sherman departure. It's a new era in Seattle. They kick it off with a solid linebacker from Alabama. 22, the Bengals take Isaiah Wynn, the guard out of Georgia. I think this would do a lot of good things for them. They need some offensive line help out Andy Dalton, help out their multiple running backs. This is a pulling guard, can move guys out of the way. I think Isaiah Wynn does a lot of good things for them. The Patriots, with now the 23rd pick, having traded Brandon Cooks, they take Josh Jackson, the cornerback out of Iowa. I don't believe in this. The Patriots are going to make this move to go get a quarterback. One, that's not really something the Patriots do. If anything, the Patriots would be more likely to take a quarterback in the second or third round and turn that guy into another Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think we kind of get lost with, because the Patriots usually make good moves. If they make a move, they're scheming something up. I think simply they just said, hey, we'll trade Brandon Cooks because Brady can do well with pretty much anything at wide receiver, and we'll get some defensive help, which we really need if you saw that Super Bowl. So they get Josh Jackson there. And also at 31, they get some offensive line help in Colton Miller out of UCLA. So I could see them going back-to-back defense there, but just not how the draft played out. At 24, though, the Panthers get Connor Williams, another offensive tackle out of Texas, my number one offensive tackle, but injuries I think are going to hold him back a little bit. 25, the Titans get Taven Bryan, so they get some defensive line help out of Florida, and so do the Falcons, who at 26 get Maurice Hurst. I wonder if there's a chance he falls to the second round given that heart condition scare, but it was cleared. And I think if the Falcons, continuing to address that defense is going to continue to get you into the postseason. 27, the New Orleans Saints. I have them taking Dallas Goedert, the tight end out of South Dakota State. A lot of buzz around this guy. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's easily the number one tight end in this class. We saw the Saints go after getting Jimmy Graham back. That didn't work out. I think they get a tight end here in the first round. 28, the Steelers get Langston Vander Esch. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. The linebacker out of Boise State. Obviously with Ryan Shazier's unfortunate injury last year, they could use an upgrade or at least somebody else at the linebacker position with his future uncertain. Number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars take Mason Rudolph, making it 6 quarterbacks in the first round. But I think I am a big fan of Mason Rudolph. I made the video about the Dolphins potentially going after him. I think if the Jacksonville Jaguars got Mason Rudolph and had him competing with Blake Bortles, I think in 3 years they probably win a Super Bowl. If they can keep that core together, they were close enough to do it next year. I honestly do believe that they draft Mason Rudolph right here at the end of the first. They're hoisting the Lombardi Trophy before you know it. 30, I have the Vikings taking Daron Payne, defensive tackle out of Alabama. I think the Patriots would really like this guy, but Vikings go ahead and take him, kind of a late round steal option. Again, 31, Patriots taking the offensive lineman. And finally, the Eagles at 32 take Sony Michel. I believe the Eagles will still want to do the 3 running back thing. I don't think they're going to bring LeGarrette Blount back. So you have Michel, Jai, Smallwood. You give each guy 10 carries a game, and you continue to do very, very well in that NFC and look to repeat as NFC champions and potentially as Super Bowl champions. So there you go. There's all 32 picks, my final mock draft. If you want any more kind of reasoning or information on any of the picks, comment down below. Let me know and give me your best prediction for the draft in 2 weeks. See you guys then. Peace.